Hey, everybody, welcome to this live stream of the Comical Heathen. I am your host and head heathen, Dr. Jerry Jaffe, the world's most highly educated stand up comedian. And I'm really excited about today's live stream because I have a very special guest on out of Texas, Jay Whitecotton. We'll get into Jay more when he's here, but Jay, the idea of Jay was introduced to me by our mutual friend, Mark Riccadonna. So I want to say thanks to Mark, and we might talk about him a little bit because we should talk about Mark more when Jay is on. But in this satire-themed podcast, Mark pointed out that Jay was one of the best working comedians at doing satire and accomplishing satire on stage. And I'd much rather embarrass Jay to his face. So I'll tell you some more of the things that Mark told me about Jay when I bring Jay on. A couple of announcements while I have your undivided attention. First of all, it is the holiday season. Happy holidays. Tonight, locally in the Cleveland area, I'm doing the show that I do out my way in Mentor, Ohio at Toth's Place with my comedy brother, Milton Wiley. There'll be ugly sweaters and ugly comedians, and some of the ugly comedians will be wearing ugly sweaters. And so you'll want to come out for that. Also, with Christmas right around the corner, I know that anyone who would listen to this podcast must be a comedy fan or a satire fan, or maybe even a religion fan. And you know what? If you're a fan of all of those things, there's only one book on this earth that covers all of those things. Look at this. My book that came out last year, Religious Satire in the Era of New Atheism, was just released in paperback a couple months ago. Talk about the perfect gift for somebody whose tastes are so eclectic that no book has ever been written for them before. So I'll leave a link in the description of this podcast. You can go look it up. Or you can always message me at comicalheathen@gmail.com. Also, if you have questions or what have you. And during this live stream, which is going out to Twitch, if anyone is watching live and wants to send in questions, use the comment section, and it'll come right up onto my dashboard. And if I don't think you're a complete fucking moron, I'll share your question or comment with Jay, and we'll rap about it. Now, take a deep breath and slow down. It is a holiday season, and that means it's one of my favorite things that's happened to me, one of my favorite phenomenons around our beautiful country and even globally around the world, and that is thousands, millions, I don't know, it could be billions. I'm not going around counting everyone, of school children are singing holiday songs, which means all of these children are currently singing my favorite holiday song, a holiday song which is ripe with premarital sex and pagan idolatry and drug abuse. And it really warms my heart and my cockles. And as Dennis Leary once put it, the subcockle region, thinking about all these children singing my favorite holiday song, Winter Wonderland. And if you've never paid attention to the lyrics of Winter Wonderland, I'll point out a couple of things for you real quick while we're chatting here. And for example, did you ever notice how in the lyrics they say that they're conspiring by the fire? Yeah, that's your first hint. I mean, conspire means fucking. You do realize that, don't you? Conspiring does not mean they're not doing their taxes. They're not planning a heist. You know, they're raw dogging it on a bearskin rug right in front of an open fire. And we know they're not married. By the way, I don't care who's married or not married. I just mean in this particular song, school children are singing a song about premarital sex. That's what I love. And you know that they're not married because they build a snowman and they call the snowman Parson Brown. And then they say, hey, man, will you marry us? And so they're getting married by a snowman. That's pagan idolatry right there, Holmes. So that's how we know they're not married. After this pagan ritual, they hop back to the ski resort and are humping like bunny rabbits. And did you notice that the snowman said, if you're not married, we'll do it. The snowman said, are you married? We say, no, man. That's a talking snowman right there. How much meth does it take to get your snowman talking? I'm from Kentucky myself, and I'm not even sure. I mean, I could do a back of the envelope calculation, probably come up with an estimate. But I don't trust my math. So now we got meth, hallucination, drug use, pagan idolatry, premarital sex, all in one song. And the thought of all of these children nationwide and worldwide singing this beautiful song. Just fills my heart with holiday joy, just as Jesus would have wanted it. Now, I can really get rambling on this song sometimes, but I just want to end this ramble so I can get to our good friend Jay, just by saying, I don't want any of you Karen motherfuckers going to your local school board and trying to get the children to stop singing the song. First of all, it's one of the few joys I have left in life. Why would you want to take that away from me? But also, what are you going to do? You go to the school board and say, hey, Winter Wonderland is about premarital sex and pagan idolatry. I know because the comedian told me. Now who's going to sound crazy? So don't even bother. You're just going to make yourself look even more foolish. All right, that's a little bit of my Winter Wonderland screed. Thanks for coming along for the ride. But I really wanted to move the escalator forward to why we're all here today. Jay and I, we're going to get together on Sunday, which is a proper time for heathens to hang out. And the math did not quite work out on Sunday. So we recalibrated, and we got our E's and our M's and our C's all squared away. And we rejoined today. So thanks for joining us. And it's now my pleasure to bring from the great state of Texas to our show, The Comical Heathen, Jay Whitecotton. Jay,
hey,
there's your beautiful face. How the heck are you?
Listen, I enjoyed your intro, and it sparked me a lot. First of all, you wrote a book called Religious Satire in the Era of New Atheism?
Yes, I did.
Fuck anything I want to talk about. Let's talk about that. Does it go in just new atheism? Is there any examples of religious satire from AD, BC, CE? What is the...
Oh yeah, I mean I include some classical examples and Shakespeare and Monty Python and pre New Atheism. The book, the subtitle says, "Do you seriously believe that after 9/11?" So the book is also about September 11th.
Good. I say no to September 11th. By the way, I say absolutely just say no to.
Yes, it's a good message for the kids, and yet no one wants to hear it.
Right. It's funny, with New Atheism, I imagine a lot of this sparks with Christopher Hitchens, right?
He's one of the characters in the book. You're right about that.
I genuinely believe a lot of the problems that we're facing in the world is due to the absence of Christopher Hitchens.
You feel like more than one person would have been bitch slapped by now.
Well, there's a vacuum. And what happens when the vacuum is replaced by lesser more hucksterish, I think your Shapiros, your Jordan Petersons, who all have viable, interesting, and good information to share, by the way. But it's become so commodified, and it becomes such a marketing thing that you're oh, this is obviously some bullshit.
Right.
I felt that way about Jordan Peterson because I'm a big free speech guy. And at the beginning, I'm yeah, I agree with everything this guy's saying. And anytime I find myself agreeing with someone completely, I'm I got to stop. Hold on.
Yeah,
something's not right here. So, seeing the media distortion and destipulation on both sides as it creates this economic engine that only serves the people that are engaged in the subject of Jordan Peterson, seeing that get replicated over and over again, you can see how free speech is wonderful, but at the end of the day, the guy is just writing books about fucking making your bed. And,
right. Yes.
And overthinking Disney films to a level where maybe as a comedian, it's hilarious, right? Because we do that with Christmas songs. Winter Wonderland, if you overthink that song, that's a fucking insane song. But if you overthink any song, it's bananas. Little Drummer Boy is my favorite because it's the birth of a newborn child. And the only thing this guy can think is, what if I just bang a drum in this newborn's face?
Yeah, right next to him, just as loud as possible.
Never mind the fact a whole bunch of other people are just showing up to see this woman birth a baby.
And giving her gifts, by the way. There's incense, there's myrrh, there's gold. It's stacking up around her, like a...
Having a drummer just show up and say, fuck it, let's party and hitting the sticks, is the most drummer thing you can do regardless of Christmas.
Now, if your nephew, who was a drummer, showed up on Christmas and said, "Can I drum for you? This is my Christmas present to you." How long are you obligated to listen to him drumming before you can say thank you for your present?
Not a tat, not a rat, not a tat, not all three. And just because he sucks at the drums, I'm going to go to the refrigerator and throw away some of that art that's holding hostage on magnets.
Yes. There's going to be collateral damage because of that drummer boy.
It's fun. It was like this is to me is what comedy is. It's just playing. It's over exaggerating, and you can do that in a context where you're fighting for a free speech cause. You can also do that in the dumbest thing. But to me, the comedy part gives it the equality of, oh, you probably shouldn't jerk off to this. You know, you probably shouldn't overinflate your value to this. But what I think is kind of what we're going to probably talk about is when we're talking about satire, right? Is that,
okay?
we can do that. Is that, oh, is this, listen, this is why I record. I like to record everything when I do these things because it gets away the pre-notions of production value.
Right.
Like, what are we doing? Like, the question, I don't know how to get into this because I don't want to be insulting either, because I do challenge a lot of things when I'm talking to people about this specific subject of what the fuck is comedy today, is because so much of it is economically driven that people, because it makes money, that argument alone is like, where do we stand on the, if something makes money, does it make it good argument?
Well, let me ask you this, Jay.
Okay.
To people out here, I'm in my sealed bunker somewhere beneath the earth in northern Ohio, safe from all animals, including the human animal.
Right.
But out here in Ohio, not everyone knows Jay Whitecotton.
I don't even know.
Do you know, when did you get started in comedy yourself?
That's okay. Look, first of all, I never believed anyone would give two shits about who I am. It's what I'm saying. Usually they are interested in, but I get your point. What context can we place this guy so we can either judge him as full of shit or not? Because we can't actually listen to the words of someone. We really need to have that construct to really fucking bury them.
You know, it's American Midwestern. I like people to feel welcome. You're in my house. I want you to get cozy. You know, we'll talk about you behind your back after you've left. But while you're here, you're our guest.
The classic 19th century American way.
Yes.
Canada today.
Yeah.
I'm from Texas. I live in San Antonio. I lived in Austin for about over a decade, up until the Troubles, and had to move back. And I've traveled the world doing stand-up, but I don't believe in any of it, because when you're DIY, at some point you gotta recognize, like, okay, where is this an industry anymore? Like, I think I caught the tail end of like the club industry dying as this new thing has taken off, and it was wild. I was on both sides of it, you know, like building a career, but also trying to adhere to a club standard that was the model, I guess, in place and in your minds at the time when you started. I started in 2003. So, but I started with like a lot of people in my era, like I was talking to, do you know who Josh Fadem is?
I don't know off the top of my head.
He's a character actor. You've seen him in like Better Call Saul and a bunch of stuff. He does he's an alt comic in a truest sense, but he really respects the craft. Like, he was big pratfall guy, big, crazy, you know, silly. Looney Tunes is the best way I can describe it. And he made an excellent point. He said, is like, a lot of people from our generation who started around the same time as we did grew up on stand-up comedy through like Comedy Central, or through like SNL and VHS, you best of, and whatever we could codpile. And it was like two types of comics that came out of that really narrow space. Was you're obsessed with Bill Hicks and or Andy Kaufman. Okay. So it created a specific sensibility. And I think from that, and then the alternative scene recognized that, hey, we're not doing this boring suit coat fucking tourist comedy trap shit. We want to talk about subjects that we grew up on that were culturally relevant to us, but not to people that were coking out in the 70s and had zero interest in that, Star Wars or G.I. Joe or the beginnings of Nintendo or whatever bullshit they pretend is, culture. I bought it, so it's culture, but that is a culture, that is a mindset. And as it grew, like, it's interesting to play on both sides of it. I started in Texas around 9/11, in that post-era pro-Bush, and I was very listen, I'm very, very against 9/11. Every year I say, please stop, and it keeps happening. And, I'm very anti 9/11, but, it did create a lot of awareness for some of the things that you thought and felt about in the late 90s, as you saw everyone lose their minds over a president getting a blowjob.
Right.
The guy's a piece of shit, but don't pretend like that piece of shit isn't everywhere in your personal life, and you've done nothing about that. So fuck off with this, and people don't remember that. They don't remember a lot of that. And it was interesting to me because during quarantine, I took a lot of time to watch C-SPAN and old Christopher Hitchens clips.
Okay.
Specifically, and it does come back around to specifically to see like where is the mindset, because they go to calls throughout the country on those old C-SPAN videos, and you could hear your grandparents basically as middle-aged people having the same concerns and the same problems expressed today, but no one's doing shit about it. It's there's no one's taking any responsibility, and you can see a very predictable culture slide, and it shows itself in the arts specifically because this industrial model has kind of overtaken. And when you get down to it, I don't even know if I could even call myself a stand-up comedian. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, what makes you that thing? And is it really important to try to adhere to something when you see so many people imitate the archetype of it? But when it comes down to the substantive, like the actual craft and all the other work, none of that matters if you can just take a picture of yourself on stage and post it and get the approval of the people that are in your immediate interactions. I'll buy it, not physical.
All right. So when you 2003 or so, what did you want to talk about then? Like, what inspired you to go on stage? What did you want to tell jokes about or rant about?
9/11, the war on terror. I thought the war on terror was, I hated the idea. I grew up very politically minded. And that doesn't mean I was like left or right. It just means like I was barraged by a lot of very liberal points of views in school. And then I was also barraged by like very hardcore Rush Limbaugh, libertarian, conservative Texas values and Texas Republic stuff. So it all kind of smashed together. And at some point I was just kind of like, oh, it just sounds like it's all just bullshit. And it doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just means that it works depending on the situation it's applied on, requiring a conservative or a liberal touch. And so arguing on two sides, well, ideologically, I like arguing over stuff, but the identity of a person, the way it became attached to politics, not just identity politics, but the actual identity of being a political person, that was a negative thing when I started in comedy. I was often not allowed to perform on things. I had to fight to get an audience to build and do my own thing, because when you're talking about a war on ideology, we're going to have a war on ideas. How Republican, when you say things like that in Texas, like, oh, we're going to shoot thoughts, terrorism. There's not a country called Terroria. We're not marching into this. We're just declaring war on an idea. Right. And we did it with the war on crime, the war on drugs, and we've clearly won all these wars. And you get to the background of the economics and why these things and the property. I was very much outspoken in those things, but you still had to be funny. And so I knew that, and I never allowed myself the ego of being like, I'm saying, I was just personally frustrated by these issues as just an idiot, 23-year-old trying to figure out life. And no one, all I had was like conspiracies and these fun ideas of like, hey, not everything is exactly the disinfo.com, like disinformation, that whole series, that was very interesting. Howard Bloom, like there was a very exciting time for that a time that would allow a Christopher Hitchens to like truly have a media space where he could actually say God's not that good, which was really what he said. And people were like, fuck that guy. And from that power base of atheism, you got a lot of dudes like myself who were kind of unfuckable in high school, who found like an autonomy of self through thinking and the expression of ideas, and weren't around a lot of other people like us. When you realize that you're not that unique, there's like a weird ego shattering, and then you could see it divulge into these Shapiro's, Petersons, these lesser kind of camps that take themselves too seriously. And then I apologize if I'm a little lost here, but
that's okay.
What I mean to say, and I'll cap it with this, is we got so caught up trying to think about identity that we forgot about character.
Okay. So it's 2003, it's post September 11th. There's people like Christopher Hitchens, and you didn't exactly say that Christopher Hitchens inspired you, but are you the first comedian to have been inspired to do comedy because of Christopher Hitchens?
I wasn't inspired to do comedy because of Christopher Hitchens at all. I was, what I'm doing is I'm paralleling like a person who represented a mass audience that wasn't really represented in a commercial sense. He was able to translate it, and he was able to attack the establishment, quote unquote, or one of many different establishments in an erudite way that satisfied like an ego inside of a lot of dudes like myself who were like, fuck, I want to be that verbose and not, but I haven't done any of that shit. So you have to also, kind of like recognize the fantasy figure that's there. Like you watch Conan the Barber. Yeah, I also want to be a sword wielding badass, but I'm also not fucking taking Kempo or whatever.
No, nor steroids or going to the gym every day.
Right. And I'll take the steroids, but fuck you on the gym.
Yes.
Apologize if I'm not allowed to cuss. I forgot to ask.
Oh, cuss away, my friend.
All right. Thank God. Okay. So, to answer your question, like if you're like the things that got me into comedy was being able to talk about these things, but recognizing that I'm in a mall I'm in a mall club in San Antonio, Texas, with a flaming jalapeno on the top corner. They don't advertise. The whole thing was a tax write-off. You're getting tourists from all around the country right next to the Alamo, kind of walking in, 350 seater. You got to bark them in. It was like a comedy, like every shitty thing about comedy you just got to have in this one space of experience, because San Antonio, the best way I can describe the scene is San Antonio is 9/11 hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Like every Tool is very popular. Every band from 1998 is still huge, still thriving here. And whatever you do, don't tell them. Don't tell them it's happening. So like a lot of national trends trickle down to San Antonio. So like this scene will look to Austin for leadership. Austin will look to LA and New York for leadership. And by that, I mean, what can they replicate from the big scenes so that they can sound like they're the big boys too? Like everyone's trying to appear as something instead of what they are. And I find that kind of being disruptive to the arts as well. It's this whole appearances thing.
We have a mutual friend in Mark Riccadonna, and actually Mark Riccadonna was on this podcast a couple of years ago. I've known him for many years. It's kind of him to join me, but he specifically, of all the people he could have mentioned you as a comedian who does satire either well or right. And I just will add one more detail. I often feature for Mark over the years. I have often featured for him over the years. And I'm used to working with him. And so he's like a teddy bear. He's friendly.
He is a storytelling, lovable. He is Bert Kreischer with who knows to keep his shirt on.
Right. And so when he was talking about people who open for him, he was like, first he wanted to say, like, don't do satire. Don't do religion. I got to go on next. That's not a direct quote or an impersonation. But then he immediately said, unless you're really funny. If you're really good at satire, then I'm happy to follow you. And then you were his example of
Well,
someone.
it's yeah, I go deep, like, but I can get away with it, but whatever getting away with it, that's the reason why we do a lot of the material we do. We want to see how challenging we can do it, but can you get away with it? And that's an important question because it requires you to actually think about how the audience is interpreting what you're saying.
Right.
And I find in comedy, what's happened is so many people are so hung up trying to get to that end result. They don't realize that stand-up comedy, it's really about the setup.
Right.
You don't have a setup. You really don't have a punchline. You just have a bunch of abstract noise. And it's easy to make abstract noise, take a few clips, throw it online and tell everyone you're doing the thing. But if you don't have like an idea of like how that even it's a writing exercise I do for myself, and I do it with some friends. You know, it's like whenever we're talking jokes, we don't want to tag each other's jokes because what you're doing is you're forcing your point of view on someone else's bit. Right.
Okay.
What you want to do is ask them questions and they respond from their own point of view, which is their own typical sense of humor and their own nuance and their own way of speaking. And you find you can isolate real quick the funny of what someone's saying. And you can do it through two questions. It's real easy. You ask, okay, what's the point of what you're saying? And just say the point. Don't tell me don't recite me the line. Don't do any of that shit. Just say the point of the joke is this. Then I ask, why is it funny? And then tell me why it's funny.
Right.
And it's a bit funny because like I found that with most shit that's bullshit, people can go, oh, that's not funny. You're like, why? And then they can't tell you. They go, oh, that's funny. And you're like, why? Like, I can't tell you. And that's true. That's for the audience. But if you're going to do the craft part, you should be able to go, oh, no, it's funny specifically because of this, and that. I'm doing this and I'm showing this and it became from this. And then it ties in later to something like this. Like, that's just craft. And the word I'm using for vis could be, you know, so many different things, but you feel that in your own act, I'm sure, right?
Well, I once worked when I was starting out 18 years ago with a local comedy coach who's no longer with us called Chili Chalice. I don't know if you ever came across Chili.
No, I wish I did. Chili, what?
Chili Chalice is and was a real person. And in this era, he's a local legend because he coached so many people from an earlier generation.
Yeah.
And one of the things, his advice was, you know, write the joke the way you want it to be, have a setup, have a punchline, have a point of view. But if you go on stage and no one laughs, explain to them why it's funny.
Yeah.
And that was his way of like workshopping it.
It's workshop. It really is a true way to open mic because like there's purpose there. Like the question I ask a lot of people is, you know, what's the most, and there's no wrong answer, by the way. This is not one of those trick questions where like, fuck you, you know, from the guy who already had his in the back pocket. Like, you know how magic works. That's a trick. So, but get rid of that bullshit. The question is, what's the most important in your eyes, in your mindset? What's the most important thing you need to first run a race?
Feet.
Great answer. Very natural answer. The Blade Runner guy would kind of go against that.
I thought of that after I said it, but I went with my first answer.
You did. That's the right one. And if you thought about it, if you think about it, let's give you time. Give you a couple of seconds, like something that never shows up in a podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
How about take some time to think about what you want to, and let the people hear you think for a second.
Right. Well, you'd want to have a race. You need to have a race to run a race.
Right.
Right. And then you have a start line and a finish line.
Thank you, sir. Now you're working it through. You're thinking it through. That's to me my answer, a finish line, because without that you don't have a race. And you find that most people's answers today are you need feet, you need endurance, you need the will to run, all these things. You get burst, quick twitch, all that shit. 400 years of engineered social, the perfect athlete, all that shit. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a finish line, you're just running around in circles.
Right. Yes.
And a lot of people are stuck doing that because the way social media works, the way we've been industrialized towards thinking, towards commodifying our thoughts based on hashtags, tracing trends so that the algorithms will reward us with popularity points that pay nothing, by the way, just nothing. just a social pat on the backs from ethereal people that will do nothing for you when the world comes to an end. What's making society do that? That's what I've been more interested in lately. And that's why it's been very difficult to get back into comedy, because most of comedy right now is just a lot of manufactured ego building and personality branding, and a lot of an intense desire to be seen as something, and a control of which that has created an atmosphere of just it's impossible to get any work done.
Well, let's fast forward from September 11th. You're doing all your comedyifying, being a comedian or whatever it is you self-identify as. You know, we're not here to shame anybody's kinks. But I wanted to ask this. Has the ascendancy of Donald Trump affected your ability to do satire? Do you write differently or approach things differently?
If you mean on the superficial, on the first level of that question, did Donald Trump prevent me from being funny? No.
Okay.
No. On a second level, did it kind of highlight a vast, shallow sea of dipshits who cannot fucking recognize that they've been powerless for many decades? You know? I remember when he first got elected. Let me set the scene.
Okay.
I'm in Austin. I went down to San Antonio to watch Doctor Strange because I got free movie tickets down there, and
Love it.
I think it was doing a weekend or something. I'm not sure. And I come out of Doctor Strange, check my phone. I was like, oh, he won. Oh no. I ended up writing a thing saying this is kind of what we get when you put, when we keep telling people to vote for evil and expect them to care about the voting process. Right. Like there's all very deep personal things I have with like being told I'm a piece of shit for not voting and stuff like that. You're like, no, I don't want to fucking endorse any of that. I don't co-sign for, and trying to explain nuanced points like that they don't make money. So no one wants to fucking deal with that.
Right.
So you find yourself on the outside. I went to a karate themed coffee shop that had a Wednesday open mic, and all the comics there were despondent, sad. It was as it, and okay, but it was just, I was surrounded. It made me realize that in Austin, everyone that was in Austin, they were all rich kids who had never had a bad thing happen to them a day in their life. And this was their fucking Vietnam draft. Okay. And it made me giggle because I was just like, you've never been around hard times. You have no idea about history at all, even recent history. You don't even remember like Obama, some of the shitty Obama years and some of the shitty fucking 2008 and like just like the lack of anything, any substantive. Like, what do you do in this environment when I already started cracking jokes. I'm like, look at this is pathetic. And he goes like, a comic that was crying got really upset at me. And I was like, it's not like this is a guy that put a flute out of his pocket and was like ripping off this LA dude's kind of vibe, Kurt Braunohler. And he's crying because he can't, I don't even, what were you going to do? Just stand against Trump. You're going to pull your flute and here's my art. That'll fucking tear down the system. Like, no, that was some bullshit lies your parents sold you because they couldn't fucking get the Beatles out of their goddamn psyche.
So it's a common truism of satire that you can't take sides, that you have to like blow up everything. Is
that true? I didn't know that. I thought you can. I can fucking take a side. Go fuck yourself. How dare you?
How dare you truisms come in here with your truistic nonsense?
I don't. I think it's. I don't want to say it should be anything or everything. Like because someone else will say something that like, oh, there's a shade of that too. I do like the spectrum argument. I've been thinking about spectrum shit lately because like it's a valuable tool on how to think about stuff that will be quickly co-opted and excused to get away with nonsense very soon. But not thinking of things as black and white, but as like an entire color wheel of different shades. It allows you to do two things. It allows you to look as the whole as a one color spectrum, but it also allows you to look as the micro to see the relationship. And the way colors and sound works in notes, you can also look across the wheel and see their opposite You know, there's fundamental ways of thinking about shit that aren't being taught anymore. There's no discipline. And so across the board, any conversation we have about this is just going to end up into, it's whatever we say it is.
Well, to use an example, South Park, I've often heard them complimented, maybe from certain quarters where it serves their agenda, I suppose, to say, see, they'll make fun of Mormons, but then they'll make fun of Richard Dawkins. They'll make fun of Bush, but they'll make fun of Hillary Clinton. Like, they'll make fun of everybody. And then that is held up as like a standard for what satirists should do. Whereas if someone seems to be shilling for one side, not that they can't do that from a free speech perspective, but that it undermines the comedy.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Like Stephen Colbert, I think, you know, like I didn't get into his talk show at all, but the Colbert Report is probably one of the greatest, most brilliant forms of satire ever made, and that's shilling for a side.
Right.
You know, it's fine. There's no sides really at the end of the day. History kind of goes, that's what is, you know.
Right.
You know, that's the thing about my favorite thing is like we forget that human beings are fucking terrible in general, and we kind of praise ourselves. We put ourselves on the top of the food chain. We did that. Right. We just said so. You know, it's an arrogant species in a lot of respects. I honestly don't think human beings exist. I think we're just bigoted, prejudiced apes. You know, to me, human being is like something to become, and it's like a set standard that you arrive to. And remember the factoid, like these things become memes themselves. Facts don't care about your feelings, right? Right. You hear that a lot. And on the surface, as a person who doesn't straddle that, you know, one side or the other side, you look at that sentence, you go, that is a very valuable sentence. Right. I could see how that could, hopefully they're not going to abuse that in some way. Right. Same with, you know, Black Lives Matter and all that. Like, very good sentence, very interesting sentence that should be, surely no one's going to fuck this up and overthink, you know, and it starts with comedians who do overthink things and make things really a big deal. But we got to look at a society that takes those comedians as the new truth sayers. Right. Like, no, we're full of shit. Yeah. It says more about society than it does about the comedian. It says everything about society. And that's the questions that need to be having talked about, but it requires us doing something about it in our own personal lives, because before you can take responsibility for society, you have to take responsibility for yourself. And when you take a sentence, facts don't care about your feelings. Yeah, great sentence. I can see the value in it. But unfortunately, we're dealing with human beings. And if they can't feel your facts don't mean shit.
Okay. Does the ascendancy of Donald Trump affect your onstage act? Like, do you have to use different words, or do you avoid mentioning Trump by name?
Well, it's no. It's no more than if Hillary had gotten up there and I had to shit on Hillary. Okay. Like, it's no more like it's an approach. If comedy is an approach like anything, and this is what's really fucking comedy. It's really fucking music, and it's really fucking the arts all across, because no one's actually cared about the one thing that this stuff is supposed to do. That's entertain an audience. Whether that is an audience of 1 to 4 to 20,000 to millions, right? They all have their own separate rules, but no one's doing this shit anymore because they want to make people laugh. I'll give you an example. I've asked hundreds of comics, hey, why'd you get into comedy? And the answer is never to make an audience laugh and enjoy it. I want to crack jokes and have the power to compel laughter from human beings like a god. No one says that. No one says that. Instead, they're like, well, it's either acting, or it's like, I want to bring my confidence out. And it's this fucking therapist out there telling all these weak ass people that instead of giving them the tools to build up and take responsibility for their own life, they're pawning them off on the open mics. They're flooded the whole fucking thing. They're all patting themselves in the back. They're 1 year in selling merch. And like the entire thing has gotten so watered down that you have to ask, what the fuck is stand-up comedy? Oh, I'll tell you what it is. It's karaoke. Right. Yep. It's so, you know, I apologize. Don't apologize. I mean, deep on it, but it's like the question. Let's go deeper. the question that you're bringing up to me is like, why you're asking me if Trump is affecting a thing, and I think that's the wrong question, because
Okay.
that's the question that everyone's asks, and it's
Right.
important to get those answers because you need to clip things out and get the showpiece. But if we don't address the fact that Trump doesn't fucking matter. It's like we liked Clinton because he smooth talked us, and then we felt like betrayed because, you know, the smooth talking liar lied to us, and then we got the dumbest motherfucker who couldn't clumsily told all his lies,
Right.
George W. Bush, to come in, and we're like, oh, that's good. And then we're like, that sucked. We see through the system. We don't like that. Let's elect Obama so we can feel good, like we're not actually racist. Yay, we did it. No, we didn't actually do it. It's the same shit. Oh no, let's fuck this. Let's just put in the loudest fucking. Literally today, his press secretary came out and it's just being honest, like everything's a bullshit. Right. This, and nothing's really going to happen, because I think their genuine policy is, as long as they can see the truth, they'll accept that, even if the truth sucks.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, that's speaking. I don't want to get into the news necessarily, but
how do you entertain that audience?
Yes.
How do you entertain that audience that is in that cycle? That is important information.
Yes.
So I'll tell you how I did it in Texas. Okay.
How do you do it in Texas?
I would work Fort Worth, I'd work Dallas, and I'd work clubs that would bring in a lot of rootin' tootin'. Oklahoma, a lot of rootin' tootin', a lot of Trump stickers, a lot of things like that. And I come from that background. I'm from West Texas. Like, the accent will come out, and I try to hold it back, because I don't know why. I'm just, you know, you don't want to sound like a fucking there's all sorts of baggage that comes with all that stuff. And when I'm up there, I'll just have fun with it. I'll talk about being politically agnostic. I'll set it up. I'll make a joke about how I'm not threatening. I'm not telling anybody that they're pieces of shit. I can do that for Christianity too. The best people I've ever met were Christians. Also, the worst people I ever met. But the idea of someone coming to my door at 8:00 in the morning to wake me up because they just found out about this thing. They were doing drugs and prostituting for a long time, and now they're like, oh shit, there's a heaven, and they're not trying to save that's not the worst thing a person can fucking do.
Right. And where's the people knocking on your door at 8 a.m. with the drugs and prostitutes?
At my neighborhood, pretty quick.
A daily episode.
We go out in the field and go pipe farming, because turns out the world's not doing well right now. And it's funny how much we care about entertainment and media. And to me, that's an addiction to the 20th century, because we're still seeking the value of escapism. We're overinflating it. When this bubble bursts, it's going to be very fascinating to see what happens. And it's either going to burst and then form into something shittier. Right. I'm getting vague and ethereal here in the conversation. To get back to your point, I just would go up on stage and I would talk about how I don't fucking care about Trump, because to me, he's just a New York mob guy, representative East Coast, all that bullshit. That's not my values. And then when I talk about values, you can see them kind of go, fuck, you got us. And then I go on the other way, but also fuck the other side because of blah, 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 this, because when you pay attention to the both sides, you find easily things to hate about two slave owners trying to rule you, like, how dare you ask me to choose? Gozer, the fucking Hungarian. Right. So what I would do is I would just go Texas about it, because Texas has this unique thing where we still think we're a country. Sure. But we're filled with the biggest fucking doofus hypocrites, because we're super pro-Texan and super pro-American until those two things conflate. And they go, fuck America. I'm from Texas. Right. You fucking gay 50 flag stars all over. One star. One. Yep. Tell Puerto Rico to give it back too. Fuck, like all that nonsense. And you see you use their Texas pride against their national pride. And it just kind of creates an environment of like, it's also pointing out that anyone who cares about a political figure, that's wild to me too. Like, what kind of nerd are you? Were you in high school? Did you have a picture of the president on your wall? Right. A poster behind the door, fucking nerd, Right. You use it, like, I don't personally believe it because I was politically minded, but you use that to kind of remind them that they're in one state when you bring up a word like Trump. And you have to deflate that media driven thing because they're barraged by it all day. So you at a nightclub going up there to talk about it isn't necessarily helpful or an escape, but it also, you don't want to reinforce their point of views either, because then you're just like an echo chamber fucking looking for clapping. And,
Right.
It's the easy answer is just don't fucking put comedy ahead of your ego and you'll succeed. But put your ego ahead of your comedy and you'll set a ceiling for yourself real fucking quick.
Yeah, and it sounds like too what you alluded to a few minutes ago. How long ago could it have been? We've been talking for 45 minutes. 10 years ago, you told me. Seems like this has been going on for 10 years. Sorry for my rambling, but here's what I wanted to say.
You're rambling.
Well, I wanted to get in a little ramble of my own while you were catching your breath. No, you had talked about thinking about sticking the landing where you're trying to go and thinking about the audience. And now, and your answer for does Trump put you off, so to speak, is no, because you're still doing the same craft. You're thinking about the audience that you're intend to speak to.
The variables have always been changing. The audience is always different, but they're not that different. There's like 6 different people. There's like 6 different audiences. It's not like people are working really hard to be them authentic, unique selves. They're just purchasing it and then posting it online and then taking satisfaction and their dopamine raise. And then they're following into low depression and then laver, rinse, repeat. It's and this is not just in comedy. This is in music. This is also what happens when the only people that can afford to do the arts are the rich.
Well, that's why I've in recent years, especially, but maybe also just getting older or being post-COVID, I feel like there's such a gulf between pick your A-lister, Seinfeld, and what I do, that I don't know that it's the same thing anymore.
Well, that's an interesting point, but I think it would be insane to compare yourself to Seinfeld.
Well, I was trying to pick the most insane person.
That is the most insane.
But we are both called Jerry, so we have that one thing going.
Yeah, but you're not on the good, you're not on the Feld.
But I just mean, like, I go to I went to a bar in Warren, Ohio for $75. And by the way, that was a great show.
Yeah.
But I have trouble like taking yarn on my conspiracy theory whiteboard from what I did to Jerry Seinfeld playing downtown Cleveland to 3,000 people. Like, is that even the same activity anymore?
No, because it's different audiences, different perspectives, different intentions, different. This is, to me, is the unhealthy thing that we do as artists, is because when you're creating your own thing, your own unique, this is my voice, this is me, like, you can't hold yourself to a standard Jerry Seinfeld. You're not Jerry Seinfeld. So why would you be compared to Jerry Seinfeld?
Right.
Like, the comparisons go down to where's my careers are at. Those are things you can compare and go, well, he zigged and when you zagged. He stayed in Ohio. He was born on Long Island at a time that you could afford to just go to New York and like you could eat and your parents could just buy you houses and shit because you don't live in the same, you don't have the same experiences. And I find a lot of open micers, and I'm not saying you're an open micer, and I don't want to use this as a word that would make someone feel, but I don't want to say comedian either, because like there is a sense of stolen valor. I didn't tell people I was a comedian, and I still don't. like, what does that mean? You're when you tell someone you do something, you're telling them how they're supposed to think about you and how you want them to think about you. And now it's getting to a point where at the very lowest level, you have guys a year or two in selling merch, wearing their own t-shirts, branding, hustle culture this, hustle culture that. And 90% of the time, everyone's telling them they're doing all the right things. And then they're just constantly failing and falling into these traps. And that, to me, is what stand-up comedy is now. It's the product is no longer entertaining an audience. The product is telling the audience, you can have this experience too. Because people want to do everything now without actually having to do the work.
Jay, someone just commented in and asked, and I can't tell if this was a tongue-in-cheek comment or not, so I'll just shout it out. When is Jay going back to Bisbee?
Oh, no,
that's something to you.
Yeah, I worked with Doug Stanhope a lot,
Okay.
a few times. Like I have to be careful how I say this because a lot of people tread on his reputation and name. I've
Right.
had the very good fortune of being able to like crash at his place in Bisbee, Arizona, and perform
Okay.
for like the city there because all his
Okay.
crazy friends and stuff like that, and traveling around. Like there's like a really awesome community of fans that he has that I've been
Okay.
fortunate enough to perform in front of,
Okay.
and I don't know the answer to that question. It really comes down to is like the only people that can afford to tour are the rich ones or the ones that have some money.
Right.
Like that's why you see this bands can't tour anymore. Like everyone's struggling right
Okay.
now. And a lot of that is okay too, because that means that some local creatives are getting opportunities to build something for themselves. It's no longer dependent on the New York, LA kind of tangent. We're entering a brand new thing. It's the 21st century, and
Right.
we keep trying to cram 20th century values that no longer really fit so well, or at least we should be leery of having these conversations without acknowledging the fact that change is okay too.
But Jay,
By the way,
what is comedy?
it's karaoke right now. It's just
Okay.
it's a dude who goes to a bar to ask them so he can host, so he can barter his way to be in a level of scene click where he can be the center without having to do the work, but he can get the adulation of providing for the others for $50 in a bar tab so that the others can go up on stage, do their 3 minutes. And then every week they meet again to do the same thing over and over again because no one's actually writing. Everyone's praising themselves for taking good pictures. And all you see in the pictures is just these empty chairs, these empty chairs. And like, just, the headshots, 6 months in, you just see people on journeys.
Right.
Everyone's on a comedy journey now. And it's no longer about the jokes. It's about me crafting a joke that you'll never hear because it's not good.
Right.
But how dare you not think of me as Jerry Seinfeld?
Right.
Because you know what I'm saying? Like all of it's trap thinking.
Yep.
And you really have to strip away from it and just get down to what do I want to do? And if you're asking me what I want to do, I'm honestly, I just learning how to shut up, learning how to stop. I stopped posting. I took down a lot of my media. I just wanted, I stopped writing. I wanted to focus on a different area of thinking and how to talk because I didn't know how to communicate. Before I got into stand-up, like I was a shut-in. I didn't speak to people. Like I got homeless and then I had to learn how to talk to be able to grow out of that. I was born in like a lot of isolation, a lot of abuse and all that stuff. And I didn't want to project that abuse onto a professional career in comedy when it's just about making people laugh. So it's like, for me, it's a balancing act. It's a lot of learning. What I've been doing is I've been filming a documentary on my phone of how insane it is in San Antonio doing comedy. I started I created a fake comedy club in the basement of a party room of a children's restaurant that no one used.
Okay.
And I called it the Blind Tiger Comedy Club, turned it into a kind of a speakeasy back in like 2012. And I did it because the scene sucked so bad. You couldn't get work outside of San Antonio as a San Antonio comic. The San Antonio name would not get you work because a lot of our comics were fucking dreadful and just hacked, and a level that people were like, this is not something we want around, and over dramatic too, because that need to be seen as something and our control issues, when a bunch of narcissists are attracted to the flame. So as the booker of a party room, I this group of people tried to steal the venue by calling me a cult leader, and then they started spreading all these lies. But I was filming and screenshotting our conversations we were having onto the side that kind of shows like that they were liars. And so I've been compiling it, but I kept compiling it and it's been 3 years and I just got more and more. And it's been, at some point you're like, I have like 12 people's careers in the hands. That
oh boy.
But that's not something I'm interested in making. You know what I mean? From the beginning, I want to do something constructive, not deconstructive. I think That's where a lot of this internet shit has gone down the wrong path because everyone's trying to deconstruct everything to death. That's not a sign of intelligence to me. How can you build something? How do you lessen your own ego to make sure other people are actually provided the voice they need to combine ideas? So I've been trying to do this collaborative thing, and it's predictively gone to absolute shit in the face of, I'll just say it, fuck comics, fuck everything. What the fuck's going on with dudes?
Right.
What's up with men these days? Where are the men?
Hey, you brought up your basement party room comedy club. There is something I've been asking people lately on this podcast. So whether you have a short or long answer or is no answer, for comedy clubs in general, some are better, some not as better. I'm not too worried about specific clubs. I just want to know, almost like architecturally, what makes a good comedy club? Like, what's the physical setup that you think really helps the show succeed, if you have an opinion on that?
Okay, well, you look at, here's the difference between you and Jerry Seinfeld. And it comes down to, this is a booker's perspective that I'll give you. Okay. And this is not, I don't know all your comedy. That would be wild for me to assume all those things. Okay. So I don't want you to project like,
no,
fuck that, but that happened. That insecurity thing is a real fucking thing we got to contend with. The difference between you and Jerry Seinfeld is, have you ever done a room of 50,000 people?
No.
Right. Have you ever stood in front of 50,000 people?
I'm actually thinking for a second. I lowered your bar to thousands. I'm trying to think, have I stood in front of thousands? Because I have acted in plays and gone on tour as an actor as well.
Yeah.
So I'm actually literally thinking of venues. I don't think I've ever performed in front of a crowd, even as a public speaker, of more than 1,000 people. In the
Imagine if all of them could engage with you, because you're asking rhetorical questions at all times, and that you have to be in control of thousands of people.
Right.
He can do that. You don't know if you can do that. That's the difference. You haven't trained yourself. You haven't, like, those are real physical things that could happen. And that to me is how you approach a venue. Like the venue I made, I looked at the scene. The scene was a problem. We had we had one venue, and then they opened a second one. They were both giant warehouse style spaces. There was lack of intimacy, and you didn't have the type of comics that could fill that space,
right,
or make up for that space with good ideas, especially when they're new. And when you can look at the entire audience's faces, you start doing more crowd work stuff and more interactive stuff, which doesn't look good on TV or in reels or in clips,
right,
where you have to stand stiff there. So you end up having like this duality where the entire industry is headed towards 3-minute showcase sets or 1-minute clips.
Right.
And you're stuck there trying to entertain people for an hour, and you can see every single one of them because it's too well lit.
Right.
Like there's all these environmental factors you have to address. So what I did is I realized, I got about 7 or 8 comics locally to San Antonio that had 6 minutes, and that's it.
Okay.
But they really cared about that 6 minutes, and they had other ideas and could talk them out. And so I just got a room that was small enough in diameter that if you put 10 people in, they would have the greatest time of their life. Okay. But if you had maxed it at like 80 or 90, they would be just bananas obscene. It would be an insane experience. And then when you film that pops on camera. So it helps you get better faster. And if you practiced on that stage, instead of doing an open mic, if you just went in front of comics and said, here's the joke I'm doing, and you talk it out on that stage, you're faster at getting in front of a live audience and owning your idea. Because that's the confidence really that you're looking for, is if you own your idea and you know what you feel about it when you're talking about it, by attaching like, this is how the emotion, this is where I'm conveying it through. When you talk to an audience, they'll feel, oh, that's real. And if they're right up in your face, and there's only 3 rows deep, by the way, you don't do 10 rows, because after 4, they lose focus.
Okay.
You keep everything right up on the person. You keep them locked up right up front, and you don't give 2 shits whether they're comfortable about it or not, because it's not about their comfort. You keep it cold, you keep it dark, you keep the light on the comic, and you make sure that they can't look at people and start running away from their punchlines, doing crowd work or crybaby bullshit, when instead they can just hear, this isn't a good sentence. how do I make it better? And that's
Okay.
really the question you have to ask when you get off stage. How do I make this better? That was good. How do I get it to be a little bit better? How do I sharpen this?
Okay.
You know, and you need the right environment to make that happen. And if you're caught up in the big lights and the big stage, and you're going to be stuck bombing in front of a lot of empty chairs because no one's really interested in the audience experience anymore.
Okay.
And I know it's wild to say after I said, don't give a shit about them, fuck them. But like, yeah, there's a duality to that where it's like, what would you like to see? I know what I want to see. I want to see an intimate, crazy, funny thing that I felt like, man, I'll never see that again. There's no way you can replicate that. And when you leave with that feeling. You don't get that anymore. The way everyone's trying to do it today, or the way everyone's approaching it with an idea of looking like something, appearances. Shit, man. In Austin, I had to leave because everyone was talking like they were on a podcast 24/7.
Okay.
How that's not a human being.
Right.
You know, when you turn people into ad copy for their egos, you're not going to have a healthy creative environment. So all I'm doing right now is trying to create one for myself. And I'm being attacked by comics. I've had tires popped.
Wow.
What happened is like one guy was abusing his girlfriend like a bunch in the parking lot and scaring the servers at the restaurant. A bunch of them were doing cocaine and got caught by the server that dresses up like Velma. It's a children's restaurant where they dress up like Scooby-Doo characters and superheroes upstairs.
So you met Velma.
The real Velma from Scooby-Doo.
Gotcha.
I've been using the Scooby-Doo kids to help me solve the mystery of why I'm so hated in San Antonio. It's been a fun little private project, but I'm dealing with like true narcissistic shit. I got attacked on podcasts and this big power play. And all of these people were people that I helped and that I was supportive of. And they're all like trying to create these controls. And when the new comics that are coming up, you can see this panic. If they have to sign up on a list with them, that means they're equal to them. They can't walk around like they're headliners in their local scene. So you're seeing this like psychology of doofus, power hungry, bourgeois fucking losers. But in the context of comedy, it's in the party room of a children's restaurant. It's really funny. Right. I'll send you some clips. I didn't want to send you before we had a conversation because like I'm still learning how to edit. But like we actually are getting some interest from some streamers because I've been sending it out to comedy to not comedy festivals but to film festivals, little shorts and stuff like that. And so I've gotten some awards.
Wow! The irony.
Well, I want to release it after it gets all that because I haven't used permission for anybody's visage. I don't care. I'm just telling the truth. Here's what I've captured. I have. We had this one dude that heckled Rogan and tried to like create this national fucking thing about it, and we made him apologize on our stage. And turns out he was the manager of this other club that was trying to close us down. Okay. He had a nervous breakdown. It's really stupid out there, man. I don't hate any of these people, just like a couple, but my life has actually been threatened. Like they were following me around on TikTok. I do a lot of work with the Lizard Man. And so we're trying to like develop a fun show and then, and like this nonprofit for EMTs. And while we're trying to develop that, we're being like just genuinely bullied and attacked by the biggest fucking pussy losers I've ever met. And one of the ringleaders is a guy like here's the rules. Here's the rules. If you want to perform in the club, it's just real simple. We just email, and if we don't know you, send a clip to the Blind Tiger Comedy Club at gmail.com. And if you want to do a spot, we'd be glad to help you get a spot. If we're filled up that week, we'll reserve you a spot on the next show. You know, we'll take care of it. It's a weekly thing. And for that, I'm a giant, massive piece of shit. So exploring the whys of that, one of the ringleaders, these are the things I have to tell people they're not allowed to do. The first rule is I say you can't do the N-word, cunt, and rape. You can't do all that shit. You got to earn it. You know, like you got 4 minutes up there. Let's fucking build a set first before you start attacking those things. Let's get you some professional work so you can insert them there and do real satire, you know? So I do have somewhat of a standard, but I kind of throw that away. It's just now do whatever you want to do. It's none of my business. And I I've had to tell people you're not allowed to beat your girlfriend in the parking lot. You're not allowed to chase a manager and demand why she won't fuck you in the kitchen. You're not allowed to openly do cocaine in front of children coming in to check out the space during the day. You're not allowed to drug and almost kill beloved comedian icon Mark Normand. You're not allowed to do that with fentanyl-laced stuff. You're not allowed to do that. Like, listen, I'm not anti-drug dealers, but you got one job to do. Don't kill the headliner. I'm pro-drugs, anti-fentanyl-laced drugs. Don't have the dangerous drug dealers around, right?
Yeah, this is a 10 Commandments for the 21st century.
Yeah, it's insane that I even have to say, oh, and you're not allowed to try to, like, you know, send dick pics to everyone, male or female, from the audience to the comics, and then demand they have threesomes with you. Like, like, you're not allowed to do that, and then, like, get mad at me for, like, not for listening to the manager when she says, we don't want these people here. Right. This is a children's restaurant. You're doing a midnight show, comedy show in our basement for the past 13, 14 years. And, like, these people are just wilding out, trying to live a rock and roll lifestyle. Right. None of them are funny, by the way. None of these people are funny. In fact, most of the people, myself included, I don't give a shit. I'm not funny right now. I'm not polished at all. But, like, all the people crying the loudest, none of them, let me see your act. Post your 30 minutes, and I guarantee you it's fucking shit. Right. And that's what you're seeing. You're just seeing this conflation of a bullshit economy. Comedy is just Bitcoins. It's all faith-based, and it's why would you want to be in a business like that? Fuck that. Let's just focus on jokes. I'm just focusing on my own little shit.
Well, I've seen, myself included, but I'm just thinking of others who, when they start their own local shows, as you inevitably do, and now you're a booker instead of a fellow comedian, people's egos come out.
Well, that's what they really want, is acceptance. They want to repeat the high school experience, but this time they're the cool one. Right. They can do it right this time. And luckily they found the one industry you can do that, because stand-up's the easiest thing to fake, hardest thing to actually do. Right. And when you have that, it's up to us to also not get bitter by that and not define ourselves by that, which is very difficult to do. But it's not like you can just go sign up for an open mic when you've been a headliner in their eyes forever, because the idea of you going up on stage to fail with new ideas is so foreign to them, because they're so desperate to just have their 4-minute set that will achieve all their stardom. You know, it's a poverty mindset. It's a lot of different, really, it's systematic, and it shows just what kind of happens to a culture when you strip meaning from their jobs. We live in a country that no one does anything for a living that matters. I've been asking right before COVID. That was my fun question. I wasn't the most fun comic for a couple of years, because I was just kind of like, what the fuck is this headed to? This is bad. I felt like a lunatic out in the fringes. Like, you guys see this shit coming. Right. I can see this shit coming, because I would ask the audience, like, does anyone here do anything that matters? And it would just be uh-oh. I just feel like the shift in their mind. Like, no. And when you don't have value with your work, if the thing that provides, you seek it in other things and more ideal things. And when you kill God and you have all this comfort, you know, right or wrong, when God is dead, right? You know, but it's not like we replaced him with anything other than making money.
I replaced God with a really comfortable pillow. That's all I got going for me right now. But it is a comfortable pillow, so it's a pretty close approximation.
Yeah, that's what we smothered God with.
No wonder it smells so good. It
was Egyptian cotton. 300. The whole point of it is we can't take ourselves too seriously, and it seems professionally. I'll give you a great example. There was this dude named Omar. I love this kid, Omar. Man, he's from Mexico, but he speaks great English, and he's lived a dual life, and he studies everything that we study, philosophy, all that stuff. He's a new person in his mid-20s about to experience all this shit. And I have to shut the fuck up, because I was also that person, and all the stuff that I picked up, I can throw at him, but I got to let him live his life. Right. You know what I mean? And this dude, 6 months into comedy, I think, or maybe I think he was a year in or 6 months. It was just a 1 year into comedy, his 1 year anniversary. He wanted to film his 30-minute special.
Sure. What could go wrong?
Thank you. Now I'm the booker, right?
Mhm.
But I'm also this open-minded guy. I do this thing called a shit show that lets people just pitch their worst ideas. Cause I think if you
Okay.
get it out of your system, instead of doing an hour-long show, if you do your concept in 7 minutes, you learn more and the audience has a better time. And I got this Omar dude. I go, okay, I can pitch this for a show, but I have to be honest. You're not good. You don't have 30 minutes. So I started filming him talking about it, and we made that the joke. We're like, we're just going to do this. And other people would do this, but they'd be like, Omar's the best, because online they could just pretend the show was great.
Right.
Those shows are not good anymore. That's the secret in stand-up. 90% of stand-up shows are bad shows. And we're supposed to still sell this thing that people are, but fuck it. What can you do? So I told him, come out for a shit show. He's going to try his best to do that. We made it like, can he do it?
Right.
We got a skull themed hourglass that we could flip over. I gave him 30 minutes because I wouldn't let him do an hour like he originally asked. I go, you get 30 minutes and we're going to do an hour in front of the most bananas, fucked up, dumb shit, just so you can have the full license. You got to follow that. So we're purposely setting him up for this big spectacle, knowing that he's not going to be able to quite hit it. Right. But if we let the audience in on the bit, maybe they'll actually support it enough that they're entertained. And it was one of the best shows we put on. They really hung through. Did he do it? Almost.
Almost.
Immediately, we broke the hourglass immediately going in. It was just such a but he really hung in there, and it was a fun time. And in the scene, we filmed these clips, like building up to it, like, can Omar do it? We brought his mom into it, and the fact that he doesn't want her to see him smoking. So I would still show him smoking, but I would just blur it out. Right. So I'm like the worst editor in the world. Like, it just looks so incompetent. So much so that the scene was like yelling at Omar going, they're making fun of you. And he's like, no, I'm a comedian. I'm making fun of myself.
Right.
And the fact that people can't understand that anymore, that as a comic, you don't actually have to be the cool guy. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You have the freedom to look stupid. Why not take that a little bit? What are you trying to look great in front of? None of those people can do the gig. And Omar's like getting better because of that. And by year 2 now, he can fucking host, and he can do a lot of stuff that they can't do, because he's not afraid to take chances. But at the same time, we're not going to exploit him or make him look stupid, like for stupid. He's got to be in on it. He's got to have his own control, because if we're filming him, that's his media at heart. We don't own it. So what he puts out is, like, there's like all these ethical things I'm trying to figure out what to do forward in this new medium. And I'm just taking time to figure that out. And this podcast and doing this is me kind of getting back out and learning how to talk again. Okay. And I apologize for rambling a whole bunch. You gave me 2-3 questions, and I think I just threw a barrage at you, and I apologize.
Yes. And you didn't answer any of them, which is just brilliant.
I'm very good at that, by the way.
Answers are overrated, and as are questions.
I'm learning how to not tell the truth, I guess. I don't know. It's when you tell someone honestly, like I told you in the meeting room, I think Shane Gillis is very funny. Alabama Jones, hilarious. When he made fun of the college football guy who takes himself way too serious. That's a comic. That's a comic move. But when that guy has to spend a decade basically on the fumes of, I got fired from Saturday Night Live and I'm being championed by my audience, and now I'm forced to do history breakdowns on YouTube and talk about what I watch on YouTube. Every time I see a very funny headliner suddenly all over YouTube talking about his YouTube watch history, this is wrong. This is entrepreneurship getting in the way of the arts. Give that man some good money. Let him fuck around on stages around the country, building his audience and developing more shit instead of being fucking product, more information. It's unnecessary. It's not an art. And I'm stating it as someone who's done nothing in this. I don't feel like I have to be pretentious about saying these things, although many people will interpret this as pretentious talking points.
Well, any time more than one comedian gets together to talk about comedy, it's going to sound pretentious. It
is pretentious in a lot of ways. If you're pretending to be that this thing is a thing, like there has to be certain qualifiers in there. And I find that that's harder and harder to do as you're dealing with people's fantasies more with the realities. I started a mall club. I got to work with Mark Maron as a nobody headliner, you know what I mean? As sad and crying in a green room. I got to work with Maria Bamford when she wouldn't do weekends because her audience is weird and she didn't want to work in front of those audiences. So she had to do Tuesday, Wednesdays. And she built a great career out of that. Like, and I got to work with Stanhope, who didn't even do that shit until he built his career. And then like, fuck, the money's still in the clubs. He jumped out of the bars real quick, you know? And now he's going back into it because comedy is turned back into that kind of weird wasteland area. And you find that really talented people who are driven to do this will be able to still continue doing this. But I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. That's I would like to be one of those, but I think you have to, the best work is still in front of me. I haven't been able to, you know, bogged down by real personal life shit.
Oh, sure.
I got to be honest.
Well, thank you for being honest at least once in the past hour. No, as we crawl towards a conclusion, let me just ask you this, Jay. Is there anything we haven't gotten to, I mean, about comedy or satire that you wanted to make sure you got to say?
I'm actually really disappointed in myself for because it's such a big topic to me. I needed like the verbal exercise of like, I feel like I did a lot of word vomit. I hope when we listen to this, it sounds like it was concise points, but that's something I've been worried about in my speech is that when I communicate, I jump sentences. And I think certain people who are in tune with that, we follow along. But when you start editing yourself and pulling back, you start noticing those ticks. And these are things I feel like I got to correct. I could be wrong. I think people probably understood it maybe, but.
Well, I mean,
what I have.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't think what I have to say about comedy and satire really matters. I think the important thing is the friends we made along the way, the journey.
Yes. Hell yes. If Jay Whitecotton, original Dutch pronunciation, Wittezank, is a new friend, then hell yes. Then Mark Riccadonna has done it again, being a super connector.
Mark is a super conductor. He's also a storyteller. So like I could see why when I worked with him, I worked with him when he was headlining. I featured for him, and then he was featuring for Dave Attell for the weekend. And I had to open those shows, and I didn't change my act. I kept talking about political talking points. I kept talking about gender issues and stuff like that. But if you're not a piece of shit, and if you're thoughtful, that's what it is. It's just whatever you're doing. How about this? Whatever the fuck you're doing, whether you're doing comedy, music, or just working your shitty job, practice putting a little thought into it. Don't just try to cheat with Chat GPT. Recognize how a human being is looking for cheats at all times.
Right.
That's the person who stays base, because the cheats are often put in place to keep you in your place. Right? We don't talk about that. We think a cheat code is a way to get out of a thing. But what if the person who designed a cheat code was there to keep you going around in circles? Right. And that to me is what a lot of this industry has always been and turned into. And quite frankly, I miss when the mafia owned it. Most of this was mafia owned and still kind of is. So, any type of comic having a point of view, grandstanding anything, at the end of the day, it's just,
Sure.
Liquor sales, and it's all owned by Big T-Shirt. We're all working for the Big T-Shirt industrial complex. And any comments I have on what is and what isn't satire is purely for me exploring the idea itself. I don't want to tell anybody how they're supposed to think about it. But if you don't buy the shirt, you're going to hell.
Right. Wow. And we have new coffee mugs for sale out here in Comical Heathen land. So look those up online. I'll include a link in the description of this podcast. It just remains for me, your host, Dr. Jerry Jaffe, to say thank you.
You're a doctor.
I am a PhD doctor, but yes, I am a doctor.
Which doctor?
I have a PhD in theater studies.
You son of a bitch.
I may be that too, but I am also a college theater professor.
That rules. That's awesome. You couldn't be proud of it. You did so much work and you couldn't even be proud of it. You should be proud of it, but you're like, it's a theater doctor. I'm a doctor theater.
Oh no, I have to carry a beeper on me at all times. If anywhere in town there's a play dying, my beeper goes off, and I try my best to save. They can't all be saved, but I try to save everyone.
Man, I wish I knew that. I would have dropped a lot more like thespian references.
Oh, well, we'll do that in part 2 of this conversation to be streamed in another galaxy.
Where Jay learns to construct a complete sentence.
And then I'll deconstruct it for you.
I like that. That's far better.
Hey, Jay, and our 12 regular listeners, I always end this live stream and podcast with a little catchphrase that I have. You can get it on a t-shirt. It's, hey, I just like to say thank you all for listening. Thank you, Jay. And remember, it may be your dogma, but it's my karma. And I'm all about spreading the love. Thank you.
I think that was on Epstein's mirror.
Oh.